This wasn't random. You didn't end up here by chance. It only feels that way. By the end of this, you'll understand why certain places, people, and outcomes keep finding you. Not because of fate, not because of luck, but because of something quieter, structural, repeating beneath awareness. There is a comforting belief most people carry. The idea that life unfolds randomly, that meetings are accidental, that timing is coincidence, that the paths we take are improvised responses to circumstances. It makes things lighter, it makes things less personal. But repetition has a structure. If you look closely at your life, there are shapes that keep returning. Similar conversations, similar disappointments, similar beginnings that feel different at first, and then end the same way. The faces change. The locations change. The surface details shift. But the emotional architecture remains intact. You call it bad luck, or timing, or compatibility, or just how things turned out. But outcomes rarely appear out of nowhere. They are the visible layer of invisible mechanisms. Every choice feels immediate, contextual, based on what was happening in that moment. You met someone because you were there. You said yes because it seemed reasonable. You stayed because leaving felt premature. You left because staying felt impossible. It all feels logical when you replay it. And that's the first illusion. Logic is often constructed after the pattern has already executed. There are internal structures that guide attention before you are aware of choosing. Certain traits stand out to you more than others. Certain tones of voice feel familiar. Certain emotional climates feel strangely comfortable, even when they are unstable. Familiarity does not require safety. It only requires recognition. Your nervous system is not searching for what is good. It is searching for what it knows. And what it knows is built early. Level 1 is simple. Repetition happens because attention is selective. You notice what resonates with your internal blueprint. You filter environments based on unconscious preference. You gravitate towards situations that confirm something you already believe about yourself. If you believe you must prove your worth, you will find environments that allow you to try. If you believe you are often overlooked, you will notice subtle dismissals more than subtle validations. If you believe love requires effort, you will be drawn to what feels slightly out of reach. Not because you decided to, but because it aligns. Alignment feels like attraction. It feels like intuition. It feels like chemistry. But sometimes it is simply pattern recognition at work. When something matches your internal structure, it creates coherence, even if that coherence leads to discomfort later, even if it repeats pain. The nervous system prefers predictability over unpredictability, even when predictability hurts. So you step into familiar dynamics. You call it coincidence. You call it circumstance. But the structure was already there. And here is where the explanation becomes quieter. What repeats is not just behavior, it is identity. There is a version of you that formed long before you understood yourself. A version that learned how to survive certain emotional climates. That version built strategies, adaptations, expectations. It learned what love looks like, what conflict feels like. what attention means, what silence signals. That early architecture did not disappear. It became you. You do not choose from a blank slate. You choose from inside that architecture. When you walk into a room, you are not neutral. You carry assumptions about your role. Are you the listener, the fixer, the invisible one, the responsible one, the intense one, the calm one, the unpredictable one? You rarely question this role. It feels natural, but it is patterned. You didn't end up here by chance because you have been rehearsing this outcome for longer than you think. Not consciously, structurally. Level 2 is less comfortable. It is not only that you are drawn toward familiar patterns. It is that you subtly recreate them. Through tone, through tolerance, through silence, through what you allow, through what you ignore, through what you interpret as normal. You may say you want something different, but if different feels foreign, your system resists it. Not dramatically, not loudly, quietly. You may feel uneasy around stability if instability is what you understand. You may distrust ease if effort defined connection for you. You may misinterpret calm as boredom or interpret chaos as depth. None of this is intentional. It is procedural. Your system is running scripts written earlier, and scripts produce scenes. Think of the last time you said, "I can't believe this is happening again." The words carry surprise. But beneath the surprise is something else, a subtle recognition, a sense that this feels strangely familiar, as if you have stood in this emotional room before. Because you have. Patterns do not announce themselves. They disguise themselves as new experiences wearing old emotional textures. Different person, same tension, different job, same exhaustion, different promise, same disappointment. This is not destiny. It is design. There is a moment, usually subtle, when the pattern first activates. It does not look dramatic. It looks like a small choice, a slight concession, a minor compromise, a quiet rationalization. This time will be different. That sentence is not naive. It is hopeful. But hope does not dismantle structure. Structure repeats unless examined. And examination is uncomfortable because it suggests agency. Not agency in the sense of blame, but agency in the sense of participation. You are not a victim of coincidence. You are a participant in repetition. Recognition moment. Here it is. You did not end up here by chance because your identity-level mechanisms guided you toward a scenario that confirms who you already believe you are. If you believe you are the one who holds things together, you will find something unstable to hold. If you believe you are difficult to understand, you will gravitate toward those who misunderstand you. If you believe closeness requires sacrifice, you will find closeness that costs you. The outcome validates the identity, and validation feels grounding, even when it hurts. There is a strange comfort in saying, "See, this is just how it goes for me." It reinforces continuity. Continuity feels safer than uncertainty, even if uncertainty might lead somewhere unfamiliar. The pattern is not random, it is recursive. It loops back to protect the identity that formed early, and identity resists disruption. Now the mirror. If this is true, then the question is not why this happened. The question is, what internal structure made this scenario feel coherent enough to enter? Not what you consciously wanted, what you unconsciously recognized. There is no accusation in this, only observation. When you look back at how you arrived here, you can trace the steps, the subtle pulls, the moments you felt a quiet familiarity, the times you ignored hesitation because the overall dynamic felt known. Known feels manageable, even when it is not. You may notice that your strongest reactions are not to events themselves, but to what those events confirm. When something confirms an old belief about yourself, it lands heavier. It feels final, inevitable, because the pattern completed itself. And yet there were always alternative paths, slight deviations, moments where a different response would have shifted the trajectory. They felt small at the time, insignificant. But small deviations interrupt loops. Interrupting a loop feels destabilizing. It challenges identity. It asks who you would be without the familiar storyline. And that question is rarely answered quickly. You didn't end up here by chance. You followed a sequence that made sense inside your internal blueprint. If you sit with that idea long enough, something subtle happens. The narrative shifts from, "Why does this keep happening to me?" to, "What keeps recreating this around me?" The difference is quiet, but structural. Nothing about this requires dramatic change. Nothing requires sudden insight. It begins with noticing repetition without defending it, without romanticizing it, without condemning it, just noticing. Patterns lose invisibility when observed calmly. And when invisibility fades, inevitability softens. There is another layer beneath all of this, something deeper than behavior, deeper than choice. The part of you that fears dissolving without continuity. If the pattern stops, who are you? Identity seeks stability, even if that stability is painful. So it rebuilds what it knows. The next time you feel that strange familiarity, that subtle recognition that you have been here before, notice the sensation before you explain it away. It is not coincidence speaking. It is structure. You did not end up here by chance. And that realization is not heavy. It is clarifying. Because if structure brought you here, structure can also shift. But shifts do not happen loudly. They begin in the quiet moment where recognition replaces surprise. This is where repetition becomes visible. And visibility changes what feels inevitable. There are patterns you have not yet seen. They are subtler, deeper, embedded in tone, in timing, in what feels natural. And they are still guiding you. The next outcome will feel new. At first. But underneath something may already recognize it. And that recognition is where everything begins again.
I'm Oliver, and now you know why this happens. Or at least a part of it.